I'm on, y'all need to give me a break because my blood pressure is real high. I keep telling y'all, leave me alone.
The Green Man Challenge is all about generational health. We trying to make 10K of a day a bare minimum, you heard? 10K a day of vitamin A, the bare minimum. What? In fact, as the divine soil, we trying to turn you into a plant. We want the various chlorophylls to be in your blood 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We want you to feel the benefit of what it feels like to build a circulating pool of pigments. A circulating pool of pigments. Now, you've never, ever felt your body with a full bloodstream of pigments 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is a brand new level of health to reach, brand new level of mental health and cognitive ability. Pass these seeds on. The Green Man. Yeah, and then there's that. We're going to make sure that your insides are clean.
Supply and demand. Demand is the desire consumers have for a good or service. The more people who want a good or service, the higher the demand for it. Supply is the total amount of a good or service available for consumption. Supply and demand have a big impact on the prices of product.
Time is money. You are what you buy. What are you spending your time on?
Period. You just got to have the nutrients. So are you going to pay $1,000 to have this nutrient profile circulating in your blood, or are you going to pay $65?
I'm on, y'all need to give me a break because my blood pressure is real high. I keep telling y'all, leave me alone.
Vitamin C. Right? Because, again, for me, it was a no-brainer. If we're looking at different levels of pigment throughout the body, right? And we've already broken this down in the various books, right? But if we're looking at different levels of pigment in the body, and the pigments all have different functions and blah, blah, blah. Clearly, there must be a distinction between cytokine production, myokine production, energy requirements, utilization, recycling, just so many smaller nuanced aspects of how your body is going to actually work that are contingent on first accepting these larger differences that are taboo to discuss in the scientific space. Because you had the idea that white is better, being the racist, political, economical demon that it is. So in the shadow of that, nobody wanted to discuss race as a context to shadow science, but there's a science that requires you to discuss race because there are racial differences in, it just is what it is. And so if we talking about something as fundamental as, you got to forgive me, we've been doing this CMOS and Sea moss been working my nose. Sea moss has been working my nose right now with the Michigan. So we got something going on over here in Michigan. Yeah, I think Michigan is officially going into fall weather right now. Like, just in case y'all don't know, if y'all haven't noticed it, I think we've transitioned. Michigan has officially started to move towards, like, this. In New York, we would call this Averex season. Like, Michigan is officially moving towards, it's making an official move towards fall. So the combination of that and mixing up these herbs and the sea moss is working a number on me. So forgive me, but if we're talking about something as fundamental as vitamin C being different, right? And we have all of these books, right, where we're building on certain things, like let's say on one level we're having a conversation and we're building on the concept of your bones being piezoelectric, right? If your bones are piezoelectric, right, and they're made out of protein, a particular protein combination of lysine and proline and just a handful of particular amino acids, glycine, lysine, proline, and you need vitamin C to actuate or to activate the process of bone synthesis, right? So listen, your body's bones are piezoelectric. Your body's bones are made out of pigments, that are made from the amino acids lysine, Lysine, glycine, Glycine, and proline, Proline, right? For the most part, right? Those are the main players, right? Then on the flip side, as an activator, right? Something to activate those guys, push them into the process of bone building, you need vitamin C. It stands to reason, especially when you check the historical records and you see that historically, Black people have had denser bones, which is where, the X-ray differences and the level of X-ray and all of this kind of stuff, all of these different things have a historical narrative that's consistent with contemporary science, right? But if those things are different, right, and the ability to absorb and metabolize vitamin C happens at a different rate and speed in my body, that means there's a possibility that I could be overdosing or underdosing myself in terms of what my daily amount of vitamin C should be if I'm basing that on this one universal model of a 5 foot tall, like a 5'5" white guy from Europe with a slender build, and his BMI is approximately 23.5. Like, somebody need to get a muffler. But these are the things that can happen if we don't have the specifics, right? And then if we're in a scenario where, say for instance, we trying to repair some bodily injuries, right? We trying to repair bodily injuries. Now, during that process, like say for instance, I'm an NBA player, a valuable one. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily a bench warmer. I'm a star. I'm a KD. I'm a Steph. You know, I'm a Kawhi. I got an injury. Repairing that injury requires me to build up this tissue. If I have a higher demand of vitamin C, but I use a lower recommended dosage based on the wrong body type, based on the wrong pigment type, right? Based on the wrong metabolism type, the wrong haplotype, based on using the wrong model of what the recommended daily, you know, what I should be on to function at my best. If I follow the wrong vitamin C, I'm not gonna have the bone reconstruction, because what it's saying is if you give two people, an African American person or a black person and a European person or a white person, the same amount of daily vitamin C, one of them is going to have way too much or way too little vitamin C to do his normal jobs, you know, to take care of his normal function. So this is speaking to, before you even get to osteoporosis and all those other things, because at a certain age, breaking bones is considered a death sentence. It's a wrap after you start breaking your bones as a senior citizen. So the conversation only becomes more important as you get older and older and older, right? But so I'm just pointing out the importance and understanding just what most people would consider almost a non-relevant idea to the conversation. But people in the industry understand it because all of your healthy ointments, lotions, powders, vitamin C added, you know, or, you know, a lot of them say vitamin A, you know, retinoids added, you know, retinols, retinoids, vitamin A's or beta carotenes, like all of those are different terminology for vitamin A. So obviously vitamin A, but beta carotenes, alpha carotenes, retinols, retinoids, right? All of those would be considered oranges, yellows, even some people just color association. But orange, yellow, red pigments in foods would be things that would be rich carriers demonstrating possibly these red to orange and yellow pigments. You know, these are not the only pigments of those colors, but you know, that's a good indicator when you see food that's orange, yellow, red, etc. Chances are that food is particularly rich in vitamin A, retinoids, retinols, beta carotenes, alpha carotenes, things like that, right? And then you have some forms that can be converted into other forms. Then you have some forms that are just what they are, right? Case in point, you have lutein, zeaxanthin, things like that. Those are vitamin A's, right? But those are considered non-beta carotene forming vitamin A's, and your body uses them as they are. So even though lutein and beta carotene, are both considered vitamin A's at some, you know, at some generic level, their function inside the body is different. So you need to have X amount of lutein and zeaxanthin to protect the macula, you know, or to protect yourself from advanced or early macular degeneration, right? That's the whole idea of the lutein and the zeaxanthin. But then beta carotene functions in a totally different way, but then in the eye, but totally different set of pigments and biochemistry and everything else, that now, again, fast forward, more technology, more analysis, more ability to go deeper. Now we know these same pigments and opsins and all of these different proteins from the eyes are located throughout the skin. That's supposed to give us another window into understanding the relationship of light and electricity to the skin, but also the complexity in understanding the nutrition required by your skin to function at its best. It's just not, like we've had this throwaway kind of idea with the skin where it's like moisture by any means. And moisture by any means may not always be good for electrical integrity, right? So there's a level of hydration that we need to focus on, but then what's the material? What are you hydrating with? You know what I'm saying? So all of those kind of things become conversational, seasonal even. What are you using at what time? What's the moderation? What's the goal? What's the balance? And again, all of those things in relationship to the simplification of what did you have to eat today? How much exercise have you been doing this week? Tying these things in with the kitchen chemistry, with the electric kinesiology book, the exercise and transcription, translation, all of those current conversations that we're having, just basically connecting the dots between understanding, yes, there is a connection between the earliest concepts of aura and today's most modern concept of skin health and the metaphors and analogies used to describe Oh yeah, y'all noticing the season changing a little crazy, right? It's definitely early up here in the northeast corner. All right, so hold on. When I be talking, I can't see the chat always, right? But this is a good build that's developing in the chat, right? So here's what's happening in the chat. Here's what's happening in the chat. A diabetic skin heals differently. We had to take extra care of my father's cuts. One wound, bump on the shin, took a whole month to heal. I dressed it and took care every day after school, age 9. Why does it take so long? Or why does someone with diabetes skin heal differently? It takes longer for a diabetic to heal because the blood which brings the nutrients necessary is less, and the organs that facilitate the healing are compromised. A diabetic's blood is coated in sugar and cannot deliver nutrients in sufficient quantity to promote healing, and the organs that perform the healing are also compromised. Yes, but why many diseases compromise the system do not affect the skin to such extreme degeneration, losing toes and limbs? Gangrene, I'm assuming that's what they meant with the gangrene. Okay, so it seems like it's a few different things wrapped up in this small little mini conversation. But I think for the most part, Osborne was correct in what he was saying in terms of the blood being compromised. And it's not just a matter of diabetes. right? It's what diabetes represents. So what diabetes represents in real time is going to be, and this is one of the things we talk about in the Dr. Sebi versus Dr. EnQi book, right? Wherever that book is right now. In the Dr. Sebi versus Dr. EnQi book, we discussed this specifically, but you have obviously blood glycation to worry about. So you have a different type of blood. Because you have a different type of blood, you have a different type of blood flow. Because you have a different type of blood, you have a different type of blood flow. So it's not just a matter of saying a person has an elevated A1C level, right? Okay, yeah, a person has an elevated A1C level, but what does that mean? That means that there's more glycation. There's more sugars attached to the proteins. The proteins are largely what's propelling the movement of the blood, right? So on one level, you can say it's the structuring of the circulatory system with each pulse, you know, in terms of the fluid, but the fluid is largely able to do that because of the relationship of the pigments. How pigments or proteins form, hydrophilic and hydrophobic, also bears a relationship on the ability of water around pigment structure. So if these things is coated with sugar, you know, it's damaging the system in a variety of ways. It's damaging the system in a variety of ways, which impacts also circulation, right? So circulation is different. So not only is the nutrients carried, the speed the nutrients can circulate, right? Circulation, or like all gas levels now, because the chemistry of the blood is different. The gases, so now you enter in the space of hypercapnia, hypoxia, just all of these different small little nuanced illnesses and syndromes that's associated largely with diabetes, right? That's associated with, okay, well, everybody gets diabetes, but African Americans and insulin resistance, right? So if you have a difference in the way vitamin C is metabolized, once again, you have a different production schedule of tissues. Different production schedule of tissues, different rates of visible healing. So a diabetic's going to have issues on multiple levels. Energy requirements, circulation, possibly hydration levels, water. Then you have possible medication, right? Possible medication because of how those other things will change the functional physiology of the circulatory system as a whole. Right? As a whole, you're now going to have differences in blood pressure levels. So with the differences in blood pressure levels, now you open up the door for things like, take an aspirin every day for heart health, or here's an anticoagulant. You need a blood thinner to keep your blood thin, circulating, so you don't have any, risk of clots or strokes or this or that or the other. You know what I'm saying? Like, they might issue that. Now, in that small pocket, that in and of itself can create a situation where you might even be told, monitor your greens, lower your green levels, because greens create thicker blood, You know, it can do that for some people. It can thicken the blood, right? So they may tell you, okay, if you're taking these blood thinners, don't neutralize the blood thinners by eating foods that thicken the blood, right? So there's a level of blood health that you can associate to thick and thin, having a high viscosity versus a low viscosity. You know, lots of fiber, lots of gelling, lots of, you know, water storage versus being typically dry, having a caffeine saturated driven or sugar saturated and driven, you know. The different speed at what a diabetic will heal versus a regular person. So I would say that there's a lot more to it than gangrene, or, you know, I would say it's a lot more to it. But, you know, to speak to the earliest part of unpacking this variety of sub-conversation from the chat, I'm going to say that your skin can only give you a certain amount of information. You know, discoloration, obviously, you know, it can be a big thing or not. You know what I'm saying? It could be, you got discolored skin and it could just be dry skin. You know, it could just be a rash, you know, or it could be something as crazy as a tumor or a growth or something crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, so discolored skin can be anything. And unfortunately, the darker people's skin is, the less they actually care. Like, I'm not going to say care about skin discolorations, but there's some portion of us that don't care about skin discolorations because maybe we have ideas of melanin being like a superpower. And then maybe some of us will fall in the space of where we don't even notice skin discoloration because we already dark skinned. You know, so somewhere in between those two things that can be true at the same time is an accurate story for everybody individually and uniquely, because we all have some balance of that going on as brown, you know, yellow, red, brown, black people, right? Where there's some portion of skin discoloration that, depending on what your skin color is or complexion is, you won't be able to notice it. Then some is like hyper apparent based on the contrast between your natural skin color and the color of the bruise or the discoloration or the redness of the rash or just whatever it is, right? Then some people have running situations where they may have eczema or just different other conditions that were seasonal allergies, you know, different other things that would add to the complexity of trying to figure out what the skin is saying to us at any given moment. With just skin's discolored, so, you know, what can we extrapolate from the skin being discolored? Well, maybe it's just more light. So you got, you know, you're watching melanin develop at an uneven rate. So there may be areas where, you know, the first or second day after some heat, you're starting to notice certain pockets, or somebody else might notice on you certain places getting darker than others. You know, that's why we take off our clothes in the summertime, we have tan lines, because some parts of our body will get darker than others responding to the light. So there's 1,000 different things that darker skin or dark patches or light patches could mean. It doesn't always mean, like, if you have a light patch, it's vitiligo, or, you know, it just, so you need as much information and data points as you can possibly, you know, but now having moved the relationship of your skin health from taboo science, pseudoscience, the world of make-believe to the front and center, cutting edge pocket of science, leading the way in terms of health, longevity. All of the research in health and longevity even stem from this same space, because we forget, okay, what's the skin made out of? Melanocytes and keratinocytes. What is a keratinocyte? A keratinocyte is an adult stem cell. So a lot of the stem cell research is skin research. A lot of stem cell research is also skin research. So in a wide variety of ways, the skin has been being explored in a certain context, but it just changed. Things shifted this last year, and it's becoming more intense with the concepts of inflammaging, longevity, transdermal water evaporation levels. And that's basically a scientific term for the constant rate that water leaves your body through your skin, right? And so that changes with environment, activity, light, etc., right? But it wasn't such a big thing. It was something like, people didn't really think about it much. Sweat, right?
And nobody thinks about sweat past, like getting funky, or, sweating so much you kind of mess up your clothes, like your clothes start to stick to you or whatever.
That's it. That's the 99% the population. That's their furthest concept of sweat, right? It's not until you get to the 1% of people that look at the body and health and all of these different things from a different perspective and highlight more nuanced lanes of research to study, is when you start to make the relationship between
how dry these levels of skin is and how
the organs, the organ systems, the circulatory system, even your metabolic system or energy system, how all of these things function in relationship to the hydration that, since a long time ago, aging was viewed as a drying out process. Babies are 99% water. And people notice as you age, people typically get wrinkled up and they shrivel up. Things that happen when you dry out. So this is another reason why a foundational aspect of what we do dietary, or at least focus on dietary wise, is fiber, right? More fiber, the more you stay hydrated. And more fibrous structures your body has, the more you stay hydrated. See, that's the other part, right? Not only do you need to consume the fibers, you need to build fibers, right? And that takes electricity. So that's why we have the PiezoElectricity book. The PiezoElectricity book. What book is this? No, that's photochemistry. Oh, here's the Dr. Sabi book I was talking about earlier. So that's the electrochemistry book. But no, I'm talking about piezoelectricity. I'm talking about piezoelectricity, right? So in the piezoelectricity book, we have the actual enzyme. The actual enzyme that converts electricity. So if you go into the piezoelectricity book, page 30, 31, 32, we start rounding the corner. 32, we start rounding the corner, right? 32, we start rounding the corner and we make our way somehow past never skip leg day around to electrical stimulation, and then type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4, and type 5 collagen, right? So the source material of the skin and what we see, and then also the finer subsystems of tissues, even going on to the bone. And so that's one of the things that we speak towards in terms of protein selection. It's not until the last couple of years that proteins have even come out really with a hyper focus on the actual balance of body chemistry, meaning 99% of the protein market, 99% of the protein market has been selling branched chain amino acid driven protein powders or protein supplements. And that's totally opposite to how your body is designed. Your body is designed where most of the protein in your body, or at least structural protein anyway, is collagen based. Right? So that's totally different. Branched chain amino acids is not how your body builds collagen. Right? Your body's going to use the proline, the glycine, the lysine, those things with vitamin C, to take it back earlier in the conversation, to build up the skin, to build up the proteins, the joints, even the fluids. When you get into the more gelatinous, like hyaluronic acids and synovial fluids and all of those types of things, right? That's going to still be in some degree related to your body's ability to turn over vitamin C, right? Because even when we start to get into the specifics, like I said, we in the PiezoElectricity book, the PiezoElectroChemistry book, right? And we go page 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. All right, then we start to circle around past mechanotransduction. And then lo and behold, we get to the electrochemical enzymes. Now, I have to explain to y'all, this is something that definitely blew my mind when I first came across the literature myself. Right. So this is one of the things that I definitely held out on, you could say. You could definitely say I held out. But from a different perspective, you could just say I was being a little bit more careful with it. Because, if you don't have this book, you need to have this book. Right? PiezoElectroChemistry book. If you don't have this book, you need to have this book. Right, but one of the things we talk about in the book is this enzyme that's shaped like an airplane propeller or helicopter propeller, and it literally converts electrical signals, or it converts movement and pressure waves into, like, this is a crazy thing. Like, into digital. So like, you literally have now, in a documented sense, we have the enzymes that literally convert the pressure waves. Like when we talk about the bones and things like that being piezoelectric, that means it converts pressure into electric signals. That's a very specific type of electronic device. That's a very specific type of electronic device that can convert signals that way, right? From pressure, mechanical waves of pressure into a digital signal. So in essence, when we're talking about health and we're talking about the skin and we're talking about the complexion and all those things, we're also talking about that. We're talking about how well does your skin process information? How well does your skin process pressure? How well does your skin convert light signals, digital signals, pressure signals, temperature signals, all of these different things? And over the years, the science has been developed around us and we haven't taken control of it. Even if you go back to the first and early development of lie detector tests, right? A lie detector test is based on your skin's ability to conduct electricity. And not only your skin's ability to conduct electricity, but that reading of the electrical fluctuations, because it's not necessarily specific electrical words, or it pops up as relationships of how the states and electrical activity change, right? That is tied into your emotional and mental state, so they can look at how the electrical readings through your skin fluctuate up and down, back and forth, while they asking you questions and determine whether you're lying or not. This is an old technology that's almost flawless. Almost flawless. It's like 99.999% accurate. You know what I'm saying? And it's based on being able to tell whether you're telling the truth or not by reading your mental and emotional states through the electricity being conducted by your skin. Again, if it conducts electricity, it conducts light. If it conducts electricity, it conducts magnetism. All of these things are related. All of these concepts go together. So the moment we prove through a lie detector machine that electricity is constantly being circulated, conducted, etc., through the skin, you simultaneously admit that to a greater or lesser degree, you have some form of magnetism being produced, and via the alternating electric fields and magnetic fields, there's going to be some light being produced, whether it's visible to us or not, right? Because infrared is not, visible. That's why it's not called visible. You know what I'm saying? It's different between red and infrared. Then we have colors that hyperimpose the idea of infrared, but not actual infrared. We need technology for that, to see people's heat wave signatures and all that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So there's light outside of visible light. We can't see UVB or UVA. And so there's skin electricity, there's definitely light, there's definitely magnetism that, at some level, we've always associated the two, right? But now as we get more into specificity and we can start to look at certain powerful additional jewels to have in terms of not just the health, but what it is that we do, the foundation of melanin versus diabetes, in terms of understanding melanin first as a system, right? Because melanin in and of itself is a pigment, a type of pigment. Then you have different categories of melanin, right? You have eumelanin, at least at this point, they've identified 2 different types of eumelanin. At this point, they've identified 2 different types of pheomelanin. Right? So even within the eumelanin and pheomelanin, you still have more differences in terms of, even in those categories. All eumelanin is not the same. All pheomelanin is not the same, right? Then you have neuromelanin, which is different than eumelanin or pheomelanin, right? And then in the space of neuromelanin, you have different amounts of pheomelanin and eumelanin that in most neuromelanin clusters is mixed. So this is where it even gets crazier and more difficult to possibly understand, because when you get into the space of neuromelanin is more so called neuromelanin, not because of the anatomical differences, but mostly because of where it's found, right? So because this melanin is melanin that is developing in neurons, it's called neuromelanin, as opposed to melanin being produced from melanocytes, right? So you have melanocytes, and then you also have neurons that both produce melanin. Melanocytes produce eumelanin, pheomelanin. Neurons produce neuromelanin.
Based on the way my legs look, because they're kind of small, you would think I don't work my legs, but I do. Hey, how racial are we allowed to get here, Scott?
0.
0 racial. People of West African ancestry typically have smaller calves because through their evolutionary lineage, they are optimized to run and jump better, which actually means that your calves should be mostly tendon to get that bouncy reactive force. And so if you're black and you have small calves, you got an uphill battle coming your way. But good news, the rest of you is born perfect.
In college, Shannon Sharp was a 470-pound bencher, a 500-pound squatter. In this picture right here, you can see he was a big kid. This is no small kid, 6'2". I'm not an apologist for athletes, but I'll tell you this. Having worked with them my entire life, they are outliers. I know a lot about them. Genetically, we weren't all handed out the same gifts.
Genetically, we weren't all handed out the same gifts.
Genetically, we weren't all handed out the same gifts. When we look at Shannon Sharp, let's just talk about the pool that he's in. In the pool of all men walking around the face of the earth, not all of them are 6'2", 230 pounds.
Well, health is your real wealth. You know, that's what we talk about. So even like the Mayweather boxing fitness gyms that I have, you know, around the country as well as around the world, we just truly believe in health is your wealth. We want you working out. We're nobody's going to be here forever, but while we're here, we only have one body, we only have one temple, so we have to take care of our bodies, and that's what I'm doing. If I'm not going to invest in anything, I'm going to invest in myself. You know, health is your real wealth, so I got to make sure that I'm staying in good condition, in good shape.
Go to Amazon now. Get the generational health curriculum for you and your family. Go to Amazon now. Teach them babies generational health before it's too late. Go to Amazon now. Teach them babies generational health before it's too late. Go to Amazon now. Teach them babies generational health before it's too late. They're sharpening up. These guys, this is not just practice. When you, to get to this level, you have to practice based on what your genes are. These are guys that have practiced, eaten, and lived according to their genetic code, their generational health. This is how you get to this level.
I'm just blessed, man. I thank God every day for giving me the athletic ability to go out there and perform like I did tonight, for giving me the athletic ability to go out there and perform.
Man, I thank God every day for giving me the athletic ability to
I think that Mariah is Mariah, and that's what she should be known for her work, and not for being compared or sounding like me. You know, I don't really hear it. You know, there are a few inflections. You know, inflections mean, you know, oh yeah, you know, that's in, you know, that's runs and inflections. So she does a little bit of that. Oh yeah, you know. I think she and I probably have the same tones, you know.
Well, health is your real wealth. You know, that's what we talk about. So even like the Mayweather boxing fitness gyms that I have, you know, around the country as well as around the world, we just truly believe in health is your wealth. We want you working out. We're nobody's going to be here forever, but while we're here, we only have one body, we only have one temple, so we have to take care of our bodies, and that's what I'm doing. If I'm not going to invest in anything, I'm going to invest in myself. You know, health is your real wealth, so I got to make sure that I'm staying in good condition, in good shape.
Go to Amazon now. Get the generational health curriculum for you and your family. Go to Amazon now. Teach them babies generational health before it's too late. Go to Amazon now. Teach them babies generational health before it's too late. Go to Amazon now. Teach them babies generational health before it's too late.
Yo, A.A. Rashid is with Griselda? Oh, it's that time to start robbing niggas now.
If I jack polite for them cars, you know how he go. He stunting rentals. I might get knocked by the repo, plus he snitching.